You have to be positive. Got to be, can't be negative. You can't look at these roadblocks as a dead end. Just do it type of mentality. It's a 24/7 mindset. Bumps along the road, but nothing should stop you from that.
But like looking back at it now, in the beginning, it's just tough to think about that way. Like it's easy to sit back here and like look and say, okay, yeah, that's what it is. But back then, it is right. It's just you're in the moment. You're doing what you think you need to do to be the best at what you're trying, to accomplish. Whatever can happen is going to happen. That's for sure.
All right, guys. So we're here today with Louie and Ed here at the Chicho's channel, Chicho's Live, and we'll be talking about business mindset. So this is our first episode, so please bear with us as these guys are beginners on this podcast journey. I really do appreciate you guys tuning into this, as we do have a lot planned for this year. But our first question is, what kind of mindset is required to run a business? And I'll start with you, Louie, and then Ed will follow.
The ultimate mindset is a can-do mindset. You have to be positive. Got to be, can't be negative, because running a business, everything comes at you, and you can't look at these roadblocks as, a dead end. They're more like, a bump in the road that you just need to figure out to go around it, over it, under it, but you can't let it stop you. It's a just do it type of mentality, and it's a 24/7 mindset, and being positive, and again, bumps along the road, but nothing should stop you from that. Ultimately.
Yeah, pretty good. Pretty accurate. You gotta know you can prepare all you want. Chaos comes no matter what you do. It's definitely gonna happen. You can't prepare for the unexpected, but it's almost like you have to. But you don't know what that. It's like an oxymoron. How do you prepare for the unexpected? But it's whatever can happen is gonna happen. That's for sure. But Louis' right. Positivity is tough when you're in the heat of the battle. Everybody, loses their cool here and there, but it's also this is what I do. I solve these problems. I got to fix it, just that we don't lose. You got to keep going, even though we do lose plenty of times.
Yeah. And, I don't classify them as losing or failure, even though it's, at the end of the day, it's a learning experience that you need to take and move on. It's just like, athletes, they lose a game, but it's just one game, and you learn from it to win the next game, right?
You have to.
Right?
Yeah.
And so, ultimately, it's the mindset of winning, at all costs, to an extent. And, if I had to go back and say, hey, I plan to be an entrepreneur, I plan to be a business owner, I did not plan that at all. I was in college thinking I was going to get a 9-to-5 job, and ultimately this path kind of chose me in a sense, where certain factors out of my control kind of led me down this road, and it was more of a survival than anything, because
we share very similar stories in this whole journey. It was
never planned. And then once you go down this road and realize that you ultimately are in control of your financial independence and so forth, then the uncomfortable becomes comfortable for us, and it becomes our normalcy. And that's what separates a lot of the people, particularly in the mindset, because they get used to a certain routine and they get comfortable. And then when obstacles hit them, because life will punch you in the face, just like business will punch you in the face. And you just have to learn how to adapt and, move forward.
But like looking back at it now, in the beginning, it's just tough to think about that way. Like it's easy to sit back here and like look and say, okay, yeah, that's what it is. But back then, it is right. It's just you're in the moment. you're doing what you think you need to do to be the best at what you're trying, to accomplish, trying to pay your own bills. I know we'll probably get into some other questions, but my biggest thing was I always just wanted to be the best at whatever I did. So that just kind of carried for me. It's pretty easy. A lot of people don't maybe think that way, but being asked that question now than maybe 20 years ago being asked that question, I don't know how I'd answer it back then. It's easy to look back now because you did it.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. So what was like that pivotal moment you realized you were in this? Like, was it like a sudden realization, or like was it like from the start you knew you had to survive?
Well, pivotal moment. I mean, this is gonna touch your guys, your family side of it. Him and I were just working together. Got a phone call from him one day. He was off dealing with, a family matter. I was working under a different manager at the time. They wanted to get rid of him. They called me up, said, "Hey, you want to run this place?" This was one of the crazy Charlies at ODU. Said, "Sure." Hung up the phone. Didn't hear from a single person for about a month. It's like, all right, I'll just figure this out and just do it. I had to treat it like it's my own. And I think right then I realized I was like, nobody was coming to help me. There was a bunch of other people that worked there. I liked what I was doing. I wanted to make money. So I said, I'll just figure this out. I'm smart enough to figure this out. And that was that. No, that was my moment. That's
You
when I knew I wasn't turning back at that point. I knew I was going to kind of go further in some aspect.
Yeah, Ed's situation is kind of like Darwinism at its best, right? Survival of the fittest. And his situation that he's referring to, the family matters, when I had to live in Arizona for 3 months when your uncle had to get surgery, and so I just gave him the keys. It says run with it, and sometimes it works, and sometimes it didn't. Fortunately, it worked with him. He was one of 4 managers at the time that I was trying to see who would be growing with me moving forward. And fortunately, it worked out. And, so I was 1 for 4.
Mm-hmm.
And here we are 20 plus years later.
Would you say that's like an accurate percentage of how many people typically make it through?
I mean, that's our percentage because
Yeah.
it's, I can pick 4 managers that we've kind of gone through the, training us currently. And I would say that average is pretty good.
I think
Um,
luckily we're pretty similar in a lot of ways. And we're very difficult to deal with, I think, because we want everything all at once at the same exact time. We want everything perfect all the time.
yeah.
Because I feel like and a few other people we still have around, they've gone through these same motions where they had to do everything. You had to be everything in our businesses. I mean, there was there was plenty of times where there was nobody else to be able to have around to pay, nothing like that. So you did everything.
Yeah.
And that's why I think we have a difficult time right now finding or getting people to be where we want them to, because we probably expect way too much.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you got to understand our brand. Our brand is one of the few brands that, because we came from the bar industry, and so we were open till 2 a.m., but we were also opening up at 11 a.m. for lunch. So we did lunch, dinner, and bar sales that we stayed open until 2 a.m. and then had to get back there the next day at 9 a.m. to open up again for lunch. So that kind of built the work ethic and understanding that, this is what it's going to take to be successful in this business. Um, and it set the foundation for us to have a certain level of expectation, because it's very hard to find a candidate that understands that and can be both good at front of the house and back of the house. But going back to your question, as far as one of the pivotal moment, at least for me, was, being Filipino and being told that you were going to go do this and find a good job, work for a good company, and find the 9 to 5. I bought into that Kool-Aid with your grandparents and did the thing. Thought I was going to have a suit and tie going to work. Wanted to be a banker, and I was working at a local bank and gave them, 4 years of my time, 2 years junior, senior year, and then 2 years after college, and trying to get into management training after I graduated. And the pivotal moment was when an underclassman from Old Dominion, that was also a business major, got in the program. When she graduated, she was a year below me, And I had already, given them my second year. And when she told me, because I asked her, how did she get into the management training? And I've been trying for the last, 2 years. She goes, oh, my dad knows, someone on the board. And that's when it hit me when I realized that, I, in this world of business, it ends up being who you know than what you really know at that point. And that's when I gave him my 2 weeks and says, okay, I'm going to see where this restaurant industry is going to take me. Contemplating going back and getting my MBA, and the opportunity of becoming the general manager at Crazy Charlie's opened up, and I bypassed going to my master's program
Yeah.
and decided to get the practical experience. So
So a follow up I have with this question is like what habits and routines were necessary for success, and then also what sacrifices were necessary for success.
A lot of discipline, to be honest. It was just I think I'm trying to put my head back in the beginning a little bit more, because it was more of a, things just had to get done. And I came from a heavy sports background to where you had your job to do. And it's as weird as it sounds, it's a job, because like, I don't like to say I just have a job. It's my life. You had, let's say you had a role to play and you were responsible for a team. If you didn't do your part, everything collapsed. And then even back, you wrestled, Jake, then I wrestled too. There was nobody to lean on. So it's almost like, okay, I have a role to not let other people down, but I also know it's just me against everything else out there. So I think that's where my mindset came from. And it's been like that almost my whole life. So it was not something difficult for me to transition into this, I guess, lifestyle.
particularly the hospitality industry and being in the bar business, it's very tempting to get caught into this rut, right? And sex, drugs, or alcohol can take you down take you down the road, and you end up not being in business. So you had to be very disciplined. And I think one of our key success factors and why we're here today is that we knew our numbers, particularly from an inventory perspective. I mean, it was fun. I got the promotion GM first 6 months. I mean, I was a rock star, partying like a rock star, right? You were smoking behind the bar. You can smoke inside the buildings. I mean, drinks everywhere. I mean, you're out getting paid. So, but then, then I wake up one day and I realize, okay, I don't want this type of lifestyle, right? And I was a cocky college student and said, I'm smarter than that. I can figure out this and let the numbers speak for themselves. Say, hey, okay, if I know what my sales are and I know what I had in the building and I count what happens the next day, then it's a simple inventory issue.
Yep.
And that's how we really developed our own inventory program. We had a engineer major, a computer science major, and I was a finance major, and we kind of created this bar variance that we're using today. So, knowing your numbers and staying disciplined, like what Ed was saying, and not letting the temptations of this industry getting the best of you.
Yeah, I mean, I had a friend, he graduated engineering degree, wanted to come get a job working in one of the bars. I was like, I'll give you 6 months. I said, on the 6 month anniversary, you're fired. He's like, why? I said, because I'm not letting you slide into this. I was like, you did too much work to get that degree. And sure enough, 6 months came, he was fired. We talk about it all the time. I still see him. It's pretty funny.
That's awesome. I mean, you guys really dug into the routine and habits wise, but I really want to dig into the amount of sacrifice, because I don't think people realize how many hours you guys spent in the business, running the business, and starting the business.
Yeah, I mean, there is a lot of sacrifice, but there is a lot of able to control what your daily schedule is as well. I mean, I have two kids. One of them just got done playing sports, but they're heavy into sports. I don't miss any of their stuff. I mean, I'm able to be around for everything. But yes, there were days. I mean, during construction, opening, you round the clock. Holidays were spent, at the restaurants, things like that. There was no money for a very long time. We're eating there. You got to kind of, your family relationships kind of struggle a little bit because you're trying not to let other people worry about what's going on. So there's a lot there. And I mean, I don't know how deep I want to go into all that, but it also gives you a lot of freedom to an extent. You just have to be very good. I think I compartmentalize very well. I can, put work as work, be friends with the people from, work. But some people, it makes them struggle with, their relationships. People see him and I just go at it, like screaming at each other about stuff. 5 minutes later, hey man, what do you want to do? Let's go hang out. So there's a lot of personal sacrifices that I think happen through the years too. But for me, I really just kind of look at the sacrifice part as the time with my family. So I'm able to juggle that a lot. So I think that's one of the biggest benefits of going into business for yourself. You control your own destiny if you can, struggle for, X amount of time and work hard for X amount of time. It kind of opens yourself up once you get down the road a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you remember, but Jake, I probably missed the first 5 years of your life, because I was in growth mode, opening up all kinds of bars and nightclubs. So definitely need a support system, you know, backing you, and which is why your mom's played a significant role in the success of where we're at, because she was able to keep everything grounded on the home side, um, and keep me grounded as far as making sure that I did not forget the family. But in the beginning, I mean, she would have to bring you up there to eat dinner with me because I was working and had to be there for the dinner rush. When we gave up all of our holidays, we used to rent a hotel room at New Year's Eve across the street, and I'd go over there at midnight to wish you guys a new year, and then go back to the bar and work. And so, I mean, I did that for many a years. So there was a lot of sacrifices, but it goes back to the mindset. You know, that became normal for us, and it wasn't like, well, hey, it's a holiday, I'm gonna go spend time. What I did is I involved the family life with my work life because that's the only way it would coexist. And if I didn't have the support of your mom, then she wanted to fight me on that. I don't know. One of the things would have broke, right? And so she kind of understood the situation I was in, and I think that's what probably gravitated me towards her, because she was also a business major in college and having an accounting degree, kind of understand the business side of things. Um, but also she was able to balance that. Family was also important, that we were still there. So there's a ton of sacrifices that every entrepreneur, small business owner goes through. And I think what helped out in the beginning is when I joined the entrepreneurs organization, there was a learning event, and it involved the spouses of entrepreneurs. And so we had a speaker come in, Cameron Harold, and explain to the spouses the roller coaster ride of the mindset of entrepreneurs. And if she had not gone to that learning event, I don't think she would have saw the perspective of what goes through my head, and then seeing other individuals, other spouses, talk to them, seeing what they're going through, and then was able to relate to them. Because again, I've always felt you are this average of the five people you hang out with the most, and joining that organization early in my business career that I'm still a part of has still helped me understand situations that we go through as business owners, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, that's an awesome thing to have with, I guess, mentorship. I
Hmm.
think that's one thing I really would also like to dig into. If or how much importance do you put on mentorship when developing mindset, and how much of it do you?
Well, let me
Yeah.
take this
Yeah.
first. So like, it, him and I have worked together so long. We're very similar in a lot of ways, but I have to give him credit. Like, I think some of the other people around us might not see what and I hope it doesn't come out wrong, what value he really holds, but he holds the value to me because I'll get caught up in what we do every day, all day, trying to make sure things are working, correctly, trying to better each location that we might have, maximize what we can do there. And he sees it a little different. He likes to push me in different directions because I'll get comfortable. Like we said, you got to get uncomfortable. I'll get comfortable doing what we do, trying to, squeeze every little drop we can out of where we're at, and sometimes that's just a fruitless endless journey. You'll just be stuck sitting there, and he's always kind of like, okay, what's next, I want to go do this, let's do that, and I'll be like, slow the hell down, we're not ready, and then he'll go do it, and I'm like, all right, I'll go figure this out now too. That's just kind of how we've been. So like I get a lot of value from him on that level, and making me look outside of just as big as the world we do have that we're working in, it's still small. Getting outside of that and get different ideas of what we can, grow into. So I think he's a good mentor for me. Like I know he has, peer mentors probably through that group, but it's just good to have him around for me, and it helps I think everybody else in our organization as well because they might not relate to him very well right now.
Hmm.
And I think I'm be able to, bridge that gap a little bit because I'm on both sides of it. But it helps me knowing what he wants to do and where his visions are, explain that and break it down the line to back to them to see how it all kind of comes back together. So
Yeah, he makes them.
mentorship's pretty important.
Yeah, he makes them more relatable because he's still involved with the day to day operations. And I'm more on the macro perspective. Um, but it's a good challenge. I mean, it's one of those. I mean, I can talk all day about EO, but one thing that mentors bring is experience, right? And it's a big difference when you got a professor that will teach you the theory and the academics of running a business and theorize on certain situations that could happen and case studies on what's happened in other companies. But when you get a room full of entrepreneurs that actually have gone through certain situations that you may be going through, whether you're going through a downsizing or you're scaling your business or, tax issues, how to deal with, they've all done the same thing, right? And so I've always been a big proponent to get experiences from people that are living the same or going down the same road that I'm going down, and sharing those experiences because uh, it, it just it speaks volumes on that, right? And you know, and it keeps challenging me too because it doesn't keep me complacent where I'm always have a thirst to learn something, you know. And you have to have that. Always have to have a thirst to learn something and always improve yourself. And that's why when Ed mentions that I'm always trying to try new things because the other motivating factor is fear. And that was like I don't want to take a lot of the stuff that we have for granted. And I'm like, okay, what's next? Because this could be, it's kind of like COVID. COVID, it's hit some of the businesses and bam, it impacted a lot of people in the businesses. But fortunately, we were able to pivot, and our model was conducive for delivery and carry out. So it kind of worked for us. But some people that weren't prepared for it, I mean, took them out. So
Yeah, so we touched on a big point here with experience because I think experience is the best form of wisdom. But in your experience, what were some of the mistakes, or I guess in a sense, failure? I know you kind of define failure a little different, Dad, and
mhm.
probably Ed too. But what were some of the biggest mistakes you made throughout this whole journey, and how did you learn from it?
I'm trying to put my finger on something I would consider a biggest mistake. I mean,
Or has it just been a multitude of different mistakes?
I mean, I don't call them. I mean,
no, that's the thing.
I
It's
don't call them
learning
mistakes.
experience.
They're more like learning experiences. I mean, I think a foolish mistake. I remember when we retiled the floor at one of the when at Crazy Charlie's. Retiled the floor.
The amount of time we both spent on floors in our life for no reason.
It lasted 2 weeks. It was so slippery.
Oh,
People were falling just walking. And then we had to redo the floor again. And it wasn't that much better. And it's one of those things where you're buying a cheap tile, ceramic tile, slippery as hell, not thinking, what you were doing. And the floor was fine. It was a terrazzo floor, the best commercial floor you can ever do. But my ego, hey, let's make the floor better. This is early on.
I've done it in 2 different locations.
So we had to rip all that crap out and go back to the original floor. So yeah, was that a failure? I mean, that was a learning lesson, really.
Now we put no budget to flooring.
Yeah. Floor doesn't improve your cash flow, So that's what we learned from that. I mean, and that was an emotional thing. So
I think maybe just it's just more about who you choose, what people you choose to have being around you, working with you. Sometimes you make mistakes on the people.
Yeah.
But like I said, you have to know those characteristics to see on the next group of people that come in to make sure you don't duplicate that mistake, I guess.
so yeah, you're touching on a good point here too with people. So people and mindset is like one of the biggest things that I think really determines success, at least in the restaurant business, in any business. What are like some of the criteria you look at when you look at people and you can determine if they'll make it or not? I guess in managers or
It's I honestly I struggled thinking about this a little bit because sometimes you don't know. I don't think you really have any idea. I know him and I have some secret little cues that we always discuss just in private, which I'm not going to bring up now.
maybe in the
Maybe somewhere
still.
down the road. We have one thing that we always look for what people like if they followed through on things in their life, if they set out to do something, they completed it, accomplished it. That's a pretty big characteristic because if you have the discipline enough to see something through that you started, that means a lot. Like if you constantly see people bouncing around to a lot of different jobs, that's a pretty tough sign, But we also can't put ourselves in everybody else's shoes. I mean, life, like you said, life will hit you hard, and sometimes people just get caught in a bad spot. So you can't judge them on it. But
yeah.
um, I'll always say yes. I'll go back to athletes all day long because I know what they're made of. Their insides, and to be able to push through whatever crappy training it is. I use it too much because a lot of people don't relate to me anymore when I'm talking about it, but I use that, and then it's just a strange thing. I think you could just work with somebody, you can feel. In my opinion, I can sense it if they're going to work or not, or just by looking at them. I'll just talk to them, and he knows I've called some people out in my time, and I said it early on, and I'm just like, okay, we'll see what happens here. So, but getting their mindset, I mean, if you could figure that one out for me, we'd be set.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we tried several things. I mean, we tried the PI assessment, Myers-Briggs, all kinds of tests to try to match up certain characteristics with certain job descriptions now. It's worked in a few times. So you can use that as a guideline, but there's a lot of other like intuitive nuances that you kind of pick up that Ed says that, just through experience that whether or not the candidate is going to fit the role. And, certain things that we talk about. I mean, it can be easy as, just checking out their car, right? How organized it is. Certain things that you can pick up on how they live, or if you ever been to their house or apartment and you see how, how it's organized or whatever it is, or, understanding their lifestyle, getting background on what they do. So there's certain things. I mean, there was one study, that you put them in quadrants, and sometimes people have. I think the SEAL team uses it. They value more on trust than skill set because they're talking life and death, and you would rather have someone that you can trust to make sure that they got your back than anything. And that's one of the main things that we focus on is trust. And once that's gone, then I don't care how good you are, you're out the door, right?
Yeah.
Um, but finding people, that's just an ongoing thing. I like to say we can try to improve that 25% percentage, but it's an ongoing battle that we deal with today.
Gotcha.
We ask for the world.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we
because
want you. We want you to work from 9 a.m. till 2 a.m. every day.
we're looking for unicorns.
Yeah. So how do you navigate like those hard conversations when you might have to make that hard decision on when someone doesn't have that mindset, or like when
The
I don't know.
truth, radical candor.
You brought that. You brought that phrase up, a couple of years ago at this point, and it's just perfect. You just got to say what you need to say. You got to be completely honest. There's nothing worse than beating around the bush on something and then it just kind of drags it out. Just be completely upfront and honest.
Yeah, I
People respect it. They
yeah.
like it more. You know.
It's like and when you're doing these evaluations, you need to tell them these are your strengths, these are your weaknesses. Put them on a performance plan and say, hey, you got 3 months to kind of work this out. And if this doesn't work, then we need to shake hands and move on. And we can only judge them by their financials or their numbers.
You'll get some flare ups and anger and stuff here and there, but it always comes back around. Everybody gets calm again, and truth is the truth. It's not like we're just making stuff up.
Yeah. You kind of have to let go of the emotion.
Yeah.
100%.
So I know one thing that you guys have taught me throughout life is like emotional regulation.
Mm-hmm.
How have you guys developed that skill set over
I'm not
time?
the best at it.
Yeah.
You guys see me blow up and get angry about stuff, but it's quick. I'll get back down to it. I mean, but
that only comes through time and experience, unless you're really, really good at it, and in your DNA. But that was a skill set that I had to learn, and becoming a parent was something that taught. That was being a parent taught me the patience of doing that and dealing with people. That just comes with experience, in my opinion.
Gotcha. I see.
I'm a hothead.
So how have you guys grown together, you think? I know it's been a long history. It's been how many years now since you guys known each other?
98. So
26 years.
Yeah. So how has it changed from 26 years ago to today?
Well, I mean, I think it was just a mutual for me. It was just mutual respect of we both did what we say we are gonna do, and it started as a business relationship and then grew into a friendship, and it's just like you said, trust. I trust him. I mean, I'm pretty sure he trust. Well, I'll take this back. I don't think anybody trusts anybody truly 100% because you can't. And if you do, you might be a little silly. But we have enough respect factor for each other that we're not going to hide things from each other like that. And I really couldn't put my finger on how anything just happened. It was just a period of time for me.
It's just they say that when you pick your spouse, that's going to be one of the biggest decisions in your life that you make. No different than your business partner. And so, Ed and I have kind of grown, and I've had 2 business divorces in my career, and that I've learned from. And then, so, Ed and I have built this, mainly the trust and respect factor of our relationship that's got us here today. And it's radical candor. We speak our mind to each other in whatever tone, but we have thick enough skin to get through it and work things out. No different than your mom and I. And so at the end of the day, he ends up being my work spouse, so to speak, because we have no secrets. He's outside of the restaurants and bars. He helped me grow another company that was tied to the settlement industry. And so anytime I'm got other opportunity, naturally I think of him first to say, hey, let's see if we can go do this, because it's just diversifying our businesses. So
Gotcha. And then was there a moment you realized you could really trust each other? Like, was there any stories that you can think of on the top of your head?
I don't know, to be honest.
I don't think anything was ever challenged. I think we've always talked about
I think things just get built up over time. I mean, it's just the way it is. I mean,
Yeah.
I can't think of anything individual. No.
Now, people have asked me, in all honesty, he goes, why do you have why do you have so many partners, or why do you still have Ed around and stuff
Yeah.
like that? And I was like, because I trust him. That was the main reason. They're like, you know, that was it. And there was no second qualm because most of these guys are not used to having partners, and you know, sometimes they always said I overpaid like my employees at Require and all this other stuff, and I was just like, hey, you know, I'm that's just how I was. I don't know. I was just
That
used to
was your
that. Yeah.
mindset.
I don't know. It's just I guess the
That's how you ran a business, I guess.
yeah. I mean, I just like I don't know. I just kind of just shared the wealth with it, right?
Yeah.
Um, but that was the trust factor, really.
Mm, gotcha. So I guess we're coming towards the last part of the segment. Um, but I really want to talk to like the people that are watching who are in their maybe their 20s to any kind of owner, operator, restaurant operator, business owners. What are like some key points of advice that you would really like in today's world? Like what pieces do you see right now are improvements or things that people could really, I guess, latch onto to improve their business or find their next opportunity?
Um, I think surrounding yourself with the right people. I don't want to say good people. I said it's the right people. Like we said before, that you're going to be able to trust and mutual respect. That's pretty important. Um, we're pretty big on trying to create systems. I think if you can create a repeatable system that you can train other people on, that's very important as well. Because then you don't break down when a person leaves your operation. It's just more of another integral part coming back in. Now, granted, yes, some people are more valuable than others just because of their makeup. Um, and then I would rather be very uncomfortable and dig deep hard for a short period of time so the long term is easier than relive the same struggles over and over and over again. So I'd rather do it one time. I say one time. You're always going to come back to it. But I'd rather struggle for the next 6 months to make sure the next 6 years are easy. And a lot of people can't struggle for 6 months doesn't mean man, it was a tough day. No, it's awful. You don't know why you're doing this. You might not be making any money. You're killing yourself. It's doesn't seem worth it until all of a sudden it becomes worth it.
Mm-hmm.
That's my only advice I could pass down.
Well, this I think this world is full of opportunity with the technology that's available to anybody in this planet's disposal, right? Where you can have an audience in with the phone, really. And so, you know, what I
And find your skill set. Find something that you personally might be good at.
yeah.
If you're not good at leading people, don't go and find an organization where you got to have a bunch of people working for you because you're not a good leader. Don't do it.
Yeah.
If you're good on something technical, it might not be me, but if you're good on that, then find a way to utilize that into the business that you're doing. Don't go try to be something you're not. I guess that's probably a good one.
And so, I mean, I guess going back to that, because with so much opportunity out there and developing a certain skill set, it goes back to, and I guess I'll talk to my personal experience. I mean, when I became a sub maker, I was so proud to be the best sub maker that I took pride in my work. And, to this very day, I make sandwiches for you guys when you guys were in middle school and high school. And those sandwiches were the best sandwiches because it was a skill set that I developed.
He made me go to Costco with him all the time to get this ciabatta bread,
Yeah.
and then get himself a hot dog too. So
Yeah, so I mean, like to Ed's point, I mean, being good at a skill set that you enjoy doing or being good at it. I mean, then I became the best bartender, right? Being the quickest bartender, getting the drinks out, da 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 da. Became the best manager in my opinion, right? And then I just took every skill set to the next one. And even when I was a teller, I was the quickest teller at the bank for that drive-through, getting thing out, always accurate with my money. And so be the best at, a certain skill set that you want to develop and just commit and put the work in and just have that grit. I mean, I just think a lot of kids now have this idea that they're a boss person when I open up an e-commerce site, or I'm a social content creator, and they just do it, but they don't do anything, right? They don't put the work, the legwork into it. Don't have the work ethic to develop that skill set to be the best at it, and that just takes time. So they have to be patient. So I guess you know develop a good skill set and be patient. It's not it can't come that easy.
Yeah, yeah. I think that was pretty good advice from both of you guys.
Good.
But I have last few questions. Um, is regards to the future. So, what kind of legacy do you envision for Chichos and for, I guess, your own name? Do you see in the next 5 to 10 years, and then I guess for your lifetime?
Hmm.
A little bit of a surprise question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's where we're at right now, trying to figure out what Chicho's been around how many years? 60 years almost, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're trying to figure out what's the next 60 for it. And that's where we're probably in a little growing pain right now, trying to figure out what that is. And that's where I said he keeps coming from what's next, which is good, because we do have to figure that out, because we've changed so much throughout the past. I mean, I would say even just 10 years, we've changed drastically, because we've all gotten older.
Yeah.
We don't want to be out in the bars anymore. It's so our business has changed because of that, and so we are trying to figure out that next step. And I think that's where his value comes in for that, because for yourself, for my kids, for our other partners' children, there's got to be something for them as well. So we're, as much as I feel like we're just trying to do it for ourselves right now. It's not. Like I'm thinking about this as I'm saying it right now. I've never thought about how it affects my children right now, because my daughter's getting ready to be a senior next year, and then whatever's next for her. But yeah, how does this affect their lives? That's a pretty good question, and I'd probably spend more time thinking about that.
Yeah.
As far as myself, naming a legacy, it's never been my MO. I'd rather just live on and be in the backgrounds of it. That's why everybody always says, like, you're never wearing your Chicho stuff, because I was like, yes, I just don't want to talk to people about it. Which is not a good habit. I'm aware of it.
Yeah.
So
No worries. Well, definitely
this is where I value his part of it, because he's pushing what's that next step, and we do have to figure it out.
Yeah. Like having conversations like these, I think is pretty helpful, even for just us too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things that you just deal with in every business that when you strategize and do your planning and what's going to be the game plan next 3 to 5 years, and ultimately we're going through our growth phase and trying to figure out how to grow with our existing resources and our existing infrastructure without truly intensive capital requirements that will require like a brick and mortar. So that's on the Chicho side, but you know,
I would love to know your response. I think my
Yeah.
kids are a little too young still to see how they, like, maybe what they think about it. What do you think about it going into the future?
Well, I think we're in the right direction, trying to move into the digital space,
Yeah.
as like most businesses, I think most big companies, um I guess the ones I can think the top of my head, are already having like a big digital presence, like Tesla, or like all like those big, like upper echelon companies. They have like their personal brands out, like Elon Musk is like the founder, or not the founder, but a big
The
face.
face.
Yeah. So I think, not to, I guess, speak too much on, I guess, the purpose of this podcast, but I guess I'll dig into the purpose of this podcast because it is pretty relevant to this question. Because this is kind of a way to digitalize and immortalize your guys' knowledge for the future. And I think it's a really important thing we do this year, to record your guys' thoughts, because we don't really know what the future holds.
Mhm.
Like, I mean, not to say you're getting too old. I mean, you're still pretty young, but you never know what happens tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like I'm sure you guys had peers that you were shocked that they had like
Yeah.
heart attack
Yeah.
or so this is almost like a way to hedge that, I guess, risk. Um
And
Well,
then this is more like you're doing your part right now to keep
yeah.
the Chichos going because this part might give it popularity to keep those brick and mortars just keep going, right? And so this is your skill set that
To
can
document it.
fold into this,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Pretty thought provoking that just happened here like that.
Yeah, because that was really my intent with this is really to create that, I guess, knowledge bank for the future.
well, I mean, I'll get a little personal because is it just Chicho? 'Cause I remember when this project first started, I wanted you to kind of when you asked me about legacy, I wanted your kids and your kids' kids to at least know a little bit about me when I'm not here.
Yeah.
And digitizing the storyline and letting them see what Chicho's was about or how we got there and is it going to be around 55 years later? You know, I would hope so. In what fashion or how that's going to impact the food industry, I have no idea with AI and technology. Um, but you know, maybe it becomes a great apparel where Chicho's merch is around. You know, I don't know. All I know is that you know what we're doing today. It's just it's a stepping stone to you know adapting to the technologies of the future and at least to me at least it gets it documented for it being a legacy to I guess my bloodline to see where their grandfather you know was a part of what he did because I don't know what my grandfather did you know and so it's a that's the personal side when you ask me about the legacy it's more on the personal than more on the business
Yeah. Yeah.
than less on the business I mean so
Well, that was yeah, good thoughtful answers from you guys.
Yeah,
I hope got your wheels turning for the year ahead.
I think so.
well I mean I think it's a learning process because you know you were supposed to talk about mindset and then you ask these questions about
Yeah.
certain things I just went down a different rabbit hole
Yeah, I just get curious
Yeah,
because I get prompted, you know.
yeah but you know it's just one of those things I think your edit become a great editor and develop that skill set
Yeah.
but I think for the first episode and of 52 for 2025 I mean I think it's a good start just you know, get your editing skills good or better
I enjoyed it.
Yeah. I like the rawness though.
I agree.
But I guess the last question I have, what are
you
your
keep saying last question that's
yeah,
the whole
no,
thing
the last few questions. So this is the actual last question here, because the max cap we put ourselves on is an hour, so I'm gonna try and abuse it as much as I can.
No point.
But
You know you're talking to two people that lose attention span
yeah,
quick,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
yeah
So yeah, I'm really trying here. But what is your biggest hope for this series in your, I guess, personal wise? Because I mean, I think we all have our own kind of goals with it or aims, but I wanted to hear like your hope.
I've thought about this already, even though I didn't know you were asking it. Mine is to bring some kind of fun factor back into what I'm doing, some enjoyment, because over the years, growing how we have and what I have transitioned to doing, I don't know if I've been having the most enjoyment out of it anymore. It's become more so much task related. This is kind of it's exciting to me, even though it's painful to me because I don't like being this focus of,
Yeah.
but I forget about it once it starts. So I think it's bringing a little bit of fun back into
I like
my
that.
work
That's a
life.
good one.
that's a good one. So mine's twofold. I already told you about the personal side of getting it documented and having it, you know, for our personal uh, records and so forth. But you know, Ed does bring up a good point because I remember telling myself and telling other people, you know, even your mom, like the day me going to Chicho's feels like work, then I'm going to stop coming. And it almost got to a point where to Ed's point, some of these guys don't see where I'm thinking, and I don't know if I don't think I'm giving them value, then what purpose is there for me to be continue to be at these meetings, right?
Yeah.
And then it starts feeling like a job, and it was fun because I like to grow and I like opening up new stores or presenting myself a challenge, opening up another, you know, doing the food trailer or doing something that you know that helps us grow as a brand and as a company. Um, and that's fun to me. And I think to Ed's point, when it starts feeling like a job for him, that's not going to be. He's not going to be a very pleasant individual when he's working with his managers and his operating partners. So, adding this type of production to our agenda for 2025 brings back the fun factor. And, if we can make this PG rated when we talk about our experiences over the last 25 plus years of being in the business, and hopefully people will either get entertainment value out of it or learning value out of it. I don't know what it's going to lead to, right? But we got to start somewhere.
Yeah. Well, that. Okay.
It's good that we're doing something because business is a roller coaster.
Yeah.
We're in one of these right now, trying to climb back up, and so it takes it away from just like getting. Number one, we're not just settling and being stuck in that part, trying to fight your way back up. Course correcting. You're doing something else about it because this could help that, right?
Yeah.
But it also eases your mind a little bit for me.
Yeah. Well, yeah, these answers excite me. So that really made me happy hearing that and making sure that you guys are having fun with it and in this creative venture.
Just had to be forced to do it. That's all.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Any lasting thoughts before we wrap up? I'm thinking of one word for the year as like our theme. But
one word close.
One word close. Yeah.
Excited.
I'll go with that.
All right.
As I said, I was excited for this. So let's close off this one on that.
All right.
I'm excited for this year.
I'll be optimistic then. He can be excited.
Okay, I'll be excited. You be optimistic.
I'm optimistic.
Yeah, that's a little bit better.
Yeah.
All right. Cool.
All right.
That's a good end to this first episode. Thanks everyone for watching watching these two amazing leaders in the 757 community. Be in tune for the next episode. We're going to plan to have this episode weekly, so be sure to subscribe and be on the lookout for more content because we do have a lot planned for the year, and we really do want to help you, whoever's watching or whoever's listening, to gain something from this, really take something from this and bite into something that you really find fulfilling for yourself and to shape the life you want. So thank you guys. Appreciate you. And
all right.
Thank you, sir.
Peace out.